Senator Toomey.
Thanks, Mr. Chairman. Senator Tester made the point that college is just too expensive. And I have to say I agree with that. But I think we ought to be looking at one of the major drivers that we discussed a little bit earlier, government subsidy. This is not even controversial among economists, that the level of government subsidy is a big driver of the fact that higher education prices have escalated much faster than the general price level throughout the economy. Dr. Bishop made, I think, a valid point, which was that we subsidize college education through our tax code because we allow people to save for college and the growth and the value of their savings is not taxed. That is true. Frankly, I'd support eliminating that. If we took the savings and used it to lower marginal tax rates across the board, that would be more fair. That would be non-discriminatory. That would be pro-growth. But the current policy is regressive in that sense. But what's amazing is loan cancellation is much more regressive. So let me ask a couple of questions of Dr. McCluskey. First of all, just state the obvious here. What percentage of people who take on student debt are forced to do so versus what percentage voluntarily choose to borrow the money to pay for college?
Well, it's difficult to say forced versus voluntary because some people may feel forced because student aid has fueled price increases. So it's, I think, legitimate to say we have a problem with student loans and lots of the other programs like you mentioned that put the thumb on the scale to consume higher education.
Okay. But I have to disagree that it's hard to make this. Of course it's voluntary. Nobody is compelled to take out a student loan. People do it because they think it's in their interest to do so. Right. And it's a completely voluntary transaction. But to go to this question of how regressive this is, the data that I have suggests that over half of all student loan debt is held by graduate students. Is that your understanding?
Yes. So the skew of student debt is absolutely right. Nobody is required to take on student debt, and people take it on because it greatly increases your chances of much higher lifetime earnings. And graduate school in particular does that, especially
even
professional
more so.
school.
Right. So the data that I've seen is that on average, Americans with a college degree earn $1 million more over their lifetime than people without a college degree. So my last question is, tell me if you're aware of any data that contradicts this. According to the University of Chicago economist studies, they estimate that 2/3 of the benefits of full debt cancellation would be captured by the top 50% of income earners. The top 50% of income earners, those by definition are not extremely poor people. But that's where this benefit would go. How is this not extremely regressive?
Right, and I haven't seen evidence that says that is not accurate. The top decile in income earners have $46,700 of those who borrowed. The lowest quartile is $26,000. So what we're looking at is certainly there are a lot of low-income people who would get a fair amount from forgiveness, but most of it is skewed toward people who have done things like gone to medical school, become doctors, and those professional degrees, you get about $3.1 million more over your lifetime than someone who hasn't gone to college, that finished in high school. Of course, if you're going to get that payoff, you should be responsible for paying it, not taxpayers.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.